let's just jump right into it because this is going to probably blow up over the next few days. Today is the 12th of April, and yesterday there was yet another shooting. This time in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. No, it was not an active shooter getting into a movie theater or a school or something like that, but rather yet another police officer killing someone on the street. Now, the first thing that sort of I heard about this was that, oh my goodness, a police officer shot another black guy. And it was interesting because of course, in some of the circles that I've run in on the internet, uh, there was almost instantaneously a question of, oh, it's almost like there's a systemic problem or something. No, with the implications being that this was another racially motivated shooting. Now, I don't know exactly if that's true. The information that seems to be coming out might point otherwise, but I'll tell you what, this looks absolutely horrible and is beyond stupid from any way you want to cut it. And any way you want to look at it, there's nothing good about it. Anyway, let's just get straight to the details. It looks like that what the situation was one Daunte Wright was pulled over for expired tags, although it was also mentioned that another thing that they were going to try and cite him for was having a air freshener dangling from the rear view mirror. While the immediate motivation was the expired tags, it looks like they were going to go on a number of different things about it. And it got heated, and eventually the body cam footage showed that there's somebody yelled something like taser, 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 and the gal pulls out what she thinks to be a taser, purportedly, and but ends up shooting what she actually pulled out, which was her firearm. This hits the guy. I don't know exactly the body location, but it was enough that it did not immediately stall him. He gets back in the car, he drives off, crashes the car, dies on the scene. This is absolutely insane when you think about it, and from a number of different perspectives, at least it seems to me. Because for one thing, and I think that Reason magazine, which they have their article released this afternoon, was called "Overcriminalization Killed Daunte Wright." And initially they were pointing out more about the air freshener than certainly more about the air freshener than the expired tags. And that was a mistake. They corrected that, but they were still correct about that. All these things are essentially indicative or symptomatic of an overcriminalized society that we live in.
Yep.
And it's just absolutely crazy. And then there are the people who are immediately going to, we hear on the one side, the left instantaneously went to, this was racially motivated. The right instantaneously went to something on the order of like, well, don't jump to the conclusions too quick. We need to call for an investigation. And the libertarians among us are probably needing to say something like, did this guy get his investigation before he was shot on sight?
Right.
Or something like that. And it's just absolutely mind blowing, whether it's ineptitude or just pure power mongering. It doesn't matter because this is absolutely insane. And I can't get over the fact that this just keeps happening. Or
Right.
maybe it's not that it keeps happening per se. It's just that we're more aware of it than ever before. And whether that is because of our more attunement to racial motivations, or if it's just a better attunement to police brutality, which thank goodness for groups like Reason that are bringing this to light more and more and more. This has to end. I'm almost to the point of saying, like, the right almost sometimes wants to say, well, the cops are innocent until proven guilty too. But I'm almost ready to go for the other side. That maybe that because of their privilege of position and their qualified immunity and the fact that they have a monopolization of power on top of them that gets to declare them innocent whenever they want, maybe we should be assuming that they're guilty until proven innocent. So I understand that like individuals should be judged on their own merits and whatnot, but this is out of control.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I can go at this for a while.
I'm kind of wondering, for those who think that this was racially motivated, I want to ask you, if the cops didn't have the excuse of saying we can pull somebody over for expired tags or for a dangling air freshener, then this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if there was racism, even if those officers personally were racially motivated, that would have never happened if it wasn't for overcriminalization.
Yeah, exactly.
So
this guy actually has like a bit of a record behind him anyway. And that's another thing that the right's already jumping on. It's like, oh, the guy had misdemeanors and on his head and whatnot. It's like, so what?
So what?
So what?
Yeah. I was actually talking to my father today about all kinds of things. And I correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I heard it said that in the average day of an American just living their life for one day unintentionally breaks at least 6 laws.
Yep.
And it's not a matter of are you breaking the law? It's what law are they going to get you on?
That's I don't know about the statistic about it, whether it's 6 a day or whatever, but I'll tell you what, the last part is absolutely true.
Right.
Undoubtedly, each one of us has probably committed a misdemeanor at some point in our lives, based on the letter of the law.
And if you ever,
I may have committed 6 today on purpose.
All those little jaywalking.
If you ever get into a position
not wearing a mask
investigation, that is a power that can be utilized against you.
Yeah, exactly.
That in the investigation, it doesn't mean that you're going to be exonerated for a crime. That has to go through the whole legal process. The whole point of this is to find out what you are guilty of.
Right.
So we have a bad incentive, a malincentive to actually do actual legal work. So it's a terrible, awful situation. And actually, there was another gentleman who was pulled over because of not showing the police said he wasn't showing his police tags. Lieutenant Nazario, who was actually had some dealer tags in his window. They thought that the police thought his tags were under glass that were too tinted, couldn't see it. They pulled out tasers. They actually shot him in the face with pepper spray. And the guy was peacefully going about his day. And you can see the body cam footage, the police officers almost, kind of giving a threatening, like, hey, don't take this any farther and there won't be any more issues. But those police officers have lost their job. So it only took a day for them. So we'll see what happens here in this issue.
It's remarkable to me too. I had another conversation recently, and I won't say with who, but it was actually relating to stuff that we may end up talking about later in this show, about police officers who in a church, and they were getting excoriated from the pulpit a little bit, and it's like, oh, I just can't imagine how those police officers wouldn't have been like, oh well, we just have to be here, we're doing it because of orders or something like that. And I have to ask, okay, wait a sec, are these people moral enough to make their own decisions about morals and things that are right and wrong? Or are they just immoral enough that they will follow immoral orders? And if these are supposed to be honorable people who we're supposed to respect, then I would expect them to go against the grain and not follow immoral orders. But if they are perhaps not doing, it logically would follow that if they are following the immoral orders, then perhaps they are not as respectable to begin with. Which one is it going to be? Because you don't get to have it both ways.
Norm, let me tell you my experience in the military, because when I went through boot camp, they taught us that we were not allowed to follow unlawful orders, that we would be held responsible for not following unlawful orders. However, we also knew that if we challenged unlawful orders, we could very easily get hauled off to Leavenworth, which is the military prison, and it's like the worst place you could ever go to. So it's sort of it's a catch-22 really, because
you're going to interpret the law now.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 because if you follow an unlawful order, you're in trouble, and if you challenge an unlawful order, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how it is for the police. I think the police sound a little bit more like the equivalent of the Stanford prison experiment. where they're just, they're given this, blanket power. They have no competition. And, so there's absolutely zero incentive for them to behave well.
I mean, if you're a police officer and you're a respectable person and you are going to not only follow the law, but you're going to realistically not follow immoral orders and you're not going to follow immoral laws, then kudos to you. I'll hire you for my private security force whenever, we get to that libertarian society or whatever. Yeah. But you know what? Until then, you're culpable as an agent of the state. You kind of need to understand what you're getting into at that point. Yeah. So, be a good guy, sure, but know what you're getting into.
I like your idea of a private security force, because we might need more of that at the border instead of this weird security force that we have at the border. Yeah.
What a great transition into our next segment.
I was like mentally searching. I'm like, how do I go from this to that? And you gave me the opening. Gary gave me one earlier, and then you said it later. So I was, hunting for one. So